Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on a lot of new trees that I got last year. They're just little seedlings, but I'm going to give them their first steps towards becoming a bonsai. I have quite a variety of trees I'll be repotting today. The first one here is a Northern Catalpa tree. I have a Dawn Redwood seedling. I have a yew tree. And in the background here I have a Gingko. These trees are becoming active now here in the greenhouse. The buds are swelling, so it's a good time to get them potted up. I'm going to start by repotting this Catalpa tree. I got it from Jason last summer from the KW Club, and it desperately needs a bigger pot, and I'll do the first root pruning on it. So let's get it out of the pot now. All right, here I go. Let's get it out of this pot. It desperately needs a larger pot. Yes, you can see it's quite root bound. So I'll begin combing away the soil. So I'm not sure if Jason dug this up as a seedling that was growing somewhere or if it's from a seed. But it's a cool species, these catalpas. I've had some in the past and they never made it through the winter. But now that I have the glass greenhouse that's heated in the winter, these trees should do fine, getting some protection in the winter. So far the root system's looking quite good on it. There's some good radial surface roots. So I'm just trying to comb the roots out, keeping as many nice roots as I can. It is quite congested on the bottom here. I think this tree will like having bonsai soil and a larger pot. So catalpa trees have very, very large leaves. However, they do reduce in size. I've had the leaves which in nature are larger than the size of my hand, and I've had them reduced down quite small. And they're beautiful trees. They get flowers on them, and yeah, very, very nice trees. And they are fairly hardy, like they grow here, but they need some protection in the winter. You can't just leave them out on the bench or in a cold shed or anything. It just gets too cold. So I would either have to keep this in the basement, chilling in the basement for the winter, or in the glass greenhouse here, kind of keeping them above freezing, just above freezing if possible. And there's two types of catalpas. There's a Northern Catalpa and a Southern Catalpa. The Northern Catalpa is a little hardier, and they have slightly different flowers. Both are great species for bonsai, if you like large leaf trees, which I do. I like any species of tree. I think it's nice to have variety. So there is a drainage screen in here somewhere. I saw it right here. So it's really tangled up with the roots, but I'll try and get it out. There it comes. Took a few roots with it, but those are all the bottom roots, which I won't be keeping anyway. So I'm very happy with the root base on this tree. It's quite amazing, actually. I didn't expect it to be this good. Okay, so it's pretty well bare rooted. I'll clean up and then we'll come back and do the root pruning. All right, I'm all ready to begin the root pruning. So it has, a fairly good flat radial root plane here. I'm quite happy with it, actually. So I think I'll start underneath, pruning off these roots that are going straight downwards. There's the remains of the tap root there that I pruned off. So we'll make the root base flat on the bottom.
And why do we make it flat on the bottom? Well, there's several reasons. If you look at trees in nature, the roots, if you've ever seen a tree that's been tipped over by a storm, the roots are always flat on the bottom and they spread out into the soil. And that's what we're trying to duplicate with bonsai, is to get that root base that flows out from the trunk of the tree into the ground. I'll take this one off, it's growing up. This root comes out radial, it subdivides, and then it kind of grows on a funny angle, so I'll prune that part of it away. This root comes out fairly radial, subdivides. It's looking quite good actually. This root comes off at a bit of an angle. I'm going to take that away. Now there's kind of a few layers of roots here. I could make it a little flatter on the bottom, pruning away some of these lower roots, keeping my radial roots up above. This one's coming down a little low here. This root's quite vigorous, so I'm going to prune it back a little harder. This part's sticking up. I'll get rid of the part that sticks upwards there. I think I'm going to prune this one back a little shorter. It's not very radial, that end of it. In fact, I'm going to go even shorter. The rest are looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. A little more trimming on the bottom here. And I think that's good. I think that's, you know, the start of a good radial root base. So I'll plant the tree. I'm going to plant the tree in this fairly large, deep pot. It'll give the tree lots of room to grow quite strongly this summer. And my goal, you know, because the catalpa has fairly large leaves, I want to grow this into a, you know, a medium to large size bonsai eventually, but I'll grow it slowly over the years, developing the branch structure and keep pruning the roots, and yeah, I think you'll see it eventually become something pretty cool. So I'll get a drainage screen in the pot, a base layer of soil, maybe up to about here, and then we'll get the tree planted. I've got my drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so I'll begin to fill it with soil. So now I'll plant the tree. Oh, there's a root I've got to prune. I just saw one that's growing kind of sideways there. And this one too. Okay, that looks good. I'll start filling it in. This catalpa should grow really, really strongly this summer with this larger pot and bonsai soil. And it should have a good year. Okay, it's ready for watering. All right, here I go with the water. The catalpa is all repotted, ready to grow for the summer. That was a fairly easy repot. A nice way to start today. So let's go on to tree number 2. Tree number 2 is my Dawn Redwood tree. And you can see it's just starting to burst out with green buds. I'll show you a close-up of that. So here is a look at the activity on the tree. You can see the buds are just starting to pop out. So it kept its leaves from last year on the tree, so I'll have to remove those carefully. So on these leaves, at the base of them, there is some green buds. So I'm just going to prune off the ends of the leaves because I don't want to disturb those new buds that are forming. Okay, that's good enough. I'll leave those little bits of the leaves on. They'll fall off over the summer. So I've been keeping this tree in a little tray underneath to hold moisture in the soil because these Dawn Redwoods like lots of water. So I'll get it out of the pot here. Be very, very careful with those new buds. Go. And I'll start combing out the soil from the roots. You can see there's all kinds of liverwort on the top here. This is just in a organic garden soil, not a bonsai soil. So again, this tree should grow quite well over the summer. And Dawn Redwoods are fast growing trees. So my goal for this tree is to keep it as small as possible, but keep all the characteristics of the full-size tree, that beautiful fluted trunk they get. They get fantastic root bases and trunks, these trees. And I'll try and style it to look like a Dawn Redwood that grows in nature. They're a very upright, tall, conical tree. And the branches are very straight on them usually. They get a bit, they get some cool branch structure as they get older, but generally they're a very straight kind of conical tree form. So I can see this is grown from a seed because you can see the taproot and all the different layers of roots. And Dawn Redwoods are very good at generating roots. So you can root prune them fairly severely and the tree will recover and grow like nothing ever happened. So there, I've got it bare rooted now. So here is a look at my root system. So you can see it has one big taproot that goes down, and off of that taproot is a lot of roots. So with a tree like this, my first step is to reduce the taproot, and I generally go in about half. So I'm going to prune it off right here. So here I go. Big little cut. Oh, there's some leaves in here. And then I'm just going to trim these roots back in size a bit. Like that. And that will be it. That's about all the root pruning I would do on a young seedling like this at this stage. So the next step, as these roots develop, I will be reducing this taproot back further, developing my radial surface roots at this level. So that's the plan for the future. So next I've got to find a pot for the tree and get it planted. I have a pot picked out for the Dawn Redwood. It's not too big, not too small. It has a built-in drainage screen in the bottom, which is a little large for my soil size, so I'm going to put a screen across there. Get a base layer of soil on the pot and plant the tree. I'll place my drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, just like that. Fill it up with soil, well, partway. And then I'll get the tree planted. So I'll just put it right in the middle, and I'll comb out the roots, trying to get them nice and radial. That's looking good. And then I'll keep filling in the pot here with soil. I'll just lift the tree up slightly Make sure those roots are flowing down into the soil so they're not too horizontal. Tamp the soil down gently. It's so nice getting these little seedlings potted up into bonsai soil. If you leave your seedlings in a pot just to grow larger and larger, well, the roots get worse and worse, and you end up with a tree that's not really worth much. But if you carefully take care of your seedlings from young, grow them slowly and carefully, you'll end up with a really high quality tree in the end. Which, I think should be the goal for anyone growing bonsai, is to create high quality trees. Okay, so it's all ready to be watered now. So here I go with the watering. And my Dawn Redwood is all ready to grow for the summer. That was another fairly easy repotting. And if you manage your roots from a young seedling as the tree grows, you shouldn't have to do any major root work in the future. You just manage the roots just like you do the top of the tree. And, 5-10 years from now, you'll have a fantastic root system, one that you'll be proud to display the surface roots. The next tree I'll be repotting is this English Yew tree. I got this from Matt, who also gave me that Rosa Sharon. I couldn't remember who gave me the Rosa Sharon. It was Matt, so thanks very much, Matt. This was from a nursery center in their pre-bonsai section. You can see it's labeled as bonsai. It's a Taxus, baccata, Judith, English Yew, narrow columnar shrub, dense upright branching with golden yellow foliage, grows 1.5 meter high and 30 centimeters wide in about 10 years. It has all kinds of pollen cones on it, and I'll show you those up close. Here's a look at the pollen cones, and if you bump them, you can see the pollen coming off of them. It was quite a while ago. You just touch it, and you can see all the pollen coming off. Yeah, it's like dust that comes off the tree. Yeah, so nice little tree. Let's get it out of the pot. So I'll just loosen up the sides here and carefully pull the tree out. There it is. So it's growing in a nursery soil. There's a lot of bark in there. So I'll begin combing out the soil from the roots. The soil is very, very wet. So I think this tree will appreciate going into bonsai soil with regular watering and fertilizing to help it along. So this tree was just starting to become active. All the buds are swelling at the tips, turning green. So again, a good time to repot, and I don't see any activity on the roots yet. So that's good. It's a good time to repot this tree. There's big chunks of pine in there, pine bark. And so far I'm seeing a good root base. Lots of radial surface roots. Nice dense mat of roots on the bottom here. I don't know, I seem to be getting lucky with my root bases today. So far every tree has gone quite smoothly. No big chops on the roots or anything. That's kind of unusual here in the bonsai zone. See a few fertilizer pellets in the soil. Sorting out of these roots. They're quite tangled at the bottom here, so I'm just using my root rake as a root hook and just kind of pulling and untangling all these lower roots. And I prefer to use metal tools. They're very smooth and they don't damage the roots. If you use a wooden chopstick, it's rough. You know, if you slide this across your skin, it doesn't hurt your skin at all. If I was to do that with a wooden chopstick, the friction would rub my skin and it can tear the skin off the roots. So something smooth like this, I think, is the best. I don't agree with using wooden chopsticks. Several reasons: they break easily, and I think they're rougher on the roots. Okay, so the root base is cleaned out, it's combed out. Let's come back for the root pruning. All right, here is the root system. So generally on coniferous trees, you have to take it a little easier on the roots than you would a deciduous tree. They don't generate roots quite as easily, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything to the root system. You've just got to, keep in mind that they're not quite as vigorous in spring as, say, a maple or an elm or something like that. So I'm going to begin by pruning off these roots on the bottom. Get rid of those. And then you can see it's quite flat on the bottom down here. The roots kind of all come from one point, which is good, from the root plane. So I will try and spread those out when I pot it. There are some growing straight down that I'll remove underneath the base of the tree. There's another one here I can remove. So now you can see the roots can be spread out. So the roots are fairly even, except here there's like a whole mass of roots coming out from one spot. So I need to thin that out a bit. And this one can come off, it's a little high. There's a double root coming out here. I'm going to prune this one away, keeping my better root that's down below. There's one sticking up here I can remove. One here. And here. Trim this one off, it's going a funny direction. A few sticking up here that can be cut back. The rest are looking pretty good. Again, I don't know what's happening today. Maybe I'm just getting lucky with these roots, but they're turning out quite nice. Here I am trying to make videos showing you how to do difficult root bases, and all the roots are quite nice today. Yeah, that's a pretty good looking root base. So that is it for the root pruning. I can plant that. There's a close-up of the root system. Yeah, it's pretty good. Can't complain about that. All right, I'll find a pot for the tree. I'll need one, fairly large to keep those roots spreading outwards. I've got a pot picked out for the tree. It's a clay pot. It's a nice looking pot. One thing I noticed, if you go to the bottom of the pot, you'll see the drainage holes are kind of offset to this direction. This one's very close to the edge of the pot here, and this one's in further, so it's like the drainage holes should have been over here, but they're shifted. It's just a production pot, but it'll certainly do for this yew tree. So I'll get some drainage screens in, a base layer of soil, and plant the tree. I've got my drainage screens in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add a base layer of soil. Something for the tree to sit on. Just mound it up a little high in the middle here. And then I'll get the tree planted. So I don't know if there's a front to this tree. It's pretty symmetrical. So I'll put the nicest part of the root base towards the front. Maybe right here. Spread the roots out. And then arrange them on the surface of the soil here. That's looking pretty good there. Now I can add some soil around the tree. And make sure it's worked into the roots. Make sure my tree is vertical. It's looking good, and I'll just top the soil up. The height of the tree looks good in the pot. I'll just tamp that down. Yeah, that's a good height for the tree, that's for sure. Okay, the yew is ready to be watered. All right, here I go with the water. That should be good. I will place some stones on the surface of the soil here just to hold the tree in place. Those roots, because I spread them out, they're a little springy. So it'll secure the tree in the pot until those roots get established. I've got some large stones here that I can place around the tree. So there's one, and the other one can go right here. Just like that. So that tree is planted and ready to grow for the summer. The last tree I'll be repotting today is this Ginkgo, and I believe I've done root work to it already. You can see the pot is just full of weeds. It's horrible. So I'll get it out of the pot and we'll see if I've done any root work to it or if it's straight from a seed. All right, I'll begin combing out the weeds and the soil. It's in bonsai soil, so it's definitely, I've repotted it. But it is also possible that I just planted a seed in a pot and it's grown. We will see. I think it has been repotted. I don't see any signs of a taproot or anything. It's looking good so far. Now there is a drainage screen on the bottom here that I've got to get out, I think. Yes. Well, it looks like there's two separate drainage screens. There we go. They're out, and I'll comb the roots out. Okay, so that's bare rooted. Let's clean up and come back and I'll do the root pruning. Here is a look at the root base on the Ginkgo. So I can see the tree's grown down and there is a thick root growing off to the one side here. And I'm just trying to see if I pruned it on the bottom I don't think so. I'm thinking this is just a seedling that germinated in the shallow pot. I don't see any, places where I've cut the taproot or anything. Don't believe. No, it looks like it just goes down, hit the pot, and kind of curled around here. So I'm going to remove these upper roots. They're too high from the root plane. And I think, even these roots up here are too high, so I'll remove those also. I've got my radial roots down lower. And I think this one's too high here. Remove that one. So that's kind of got my radial root plane established now. So the next thing I want to do is look for root direction. This root's very strong here, so it needs to be cut back a little more than the others. So I'll come in and prune the tip off that one. This one goes a funny direction eventually, so I'm going to prune that away. Untangle those. I've got a root here. It kind of takes, it's a bit 90 degrees. It doesn't really flow, so I'm going to prune it back shorter, hoping to get new roots coming out from there in a little more of a radial direction. This one can be pruned off. It's sticking up. This one can be shortened. This one can be shortened. This one can be shortened. This one also shorten that. This one's going up here, too long, sticking straight up. Get rid of that one. There's one crossing back there, sticking up here, too long, a bit too long here. Take that back further. And that is looking pretty good now. That's not a bad start. It's not perfect, but as these thicken up and develop on this side, I can maybe prune this one back. I think I will take it back a little further. It's a little thick. Zap a bit of vigor out of that root. Like that. And I think that's ready for planting now. I'll plant the ginkgo in the same pot. It's a good sized pot for it. So I'll get my drainage screens in place, get a base layer of soil, and plant the tree. Alright, I've got my drainage screens in there. Add the soil. Now the tree, where would I put the front of the tree? I think the trunk line is quite nice here. And I think those roots will develop quite nicely. So I'll put it right here. I think I've got to get it a little deeper in the pot. Get the tree vertical and fill it in with soil. Okay, time to water the tree. Here I go with the water. Okay, I'll also place some stones on the surface of the soil just to hold the tree in place. Alright, I've got some large stones here. I can place the one right beside the tree there, and the other one on this side. That'll hold the tree really nicely until the roots get established in the pot, and then kind of midsummer I can remove the stones and it should be quite secure. You can see at the top of the tree here, the buds are just starting to push some green. So a good time to repot the tree.
I repotted 4 trees today, and everything surprisingly went quite smoothly. I didn't have to do any really major root work. I took quite a bit off the ginkgo roots, but you know, being a deciduous tree and a ginkgo, they generate roots quite easily. So I expect all the trees to live and grow throughout the summer. I don't think there'll be any problems. So that is it for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.